All right, welcome to the SnydeReport Podcast. I am your host, Gary Snyder. Also with me tonight is my better half, Pepper. Say hi.
Hi.
And our guest tonight is former State Senator Karen Tallian. She is running for the Indiana Democratic State Chair. Karen, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for doing this, and thanks for having me.
Well, it's our pleasure. We always enjoy doing these and talking with people that are trying to get jobs that seem to be have insurmountable odds against them. So, but we're glad to have you. We're just going to go and just have a conversation about why you want to be the state party chair, what your plans are if elected, things like that. So I'll let Pepper start things off.
Hi, Karen. Thank
Hi,
you for
Pepper.
joining us.
Absolutely.
I'll start with what are your top priorities for what you think the Democrat Party should be I'll putting out there as issues that's important to the Democrat Party that relate to Hoosiers?
Okay. Well, I think I just came back. I'm a member of the DNC from the state party. I just came back from the Democrat National Committee meeting in Washington about a week ago. And so I think that a lot of what I'm hearing in Indiana is what we're hearing nationally. So we're not the only ones. Indiana is not in this alone. All the states are talking about pretty much the same thing. So let me just say that I think, for myself, there are a couple of parts to the chairmanship of the state party. One of them is kind of executive, administrative. We've got to keep the money coming in, keep the payroll going, keep all of that stuff happening. And I can talk a little more about that later. But the other thing is to energize the Democratic Party and to bring back people who should be with us. I was on another forum not recently, and they asked the question, well, do you think we should build the base, or do you think we should expand the tent? And of course, I said, is that a trick question? Because the answer is both. We need to do that. And I have a vision for how to, what I think we should be doing, and that's why I'm running.
Karen, you were a state senator for a number of years.
16 sessions.
I wasn't going to ask. So when you were out in D.C. and when you look at the national party, they're wanting to move the D.C. out of D.C., the DNC out of D.C., get it back to the states. So the issues that you heard out in D.C., which one of those issues apply right here to Indiana that you think are important?
Well, so I think that in D.C. they're talking about a 50 state plus territories, 50 state strategy. So that means not one strategy for 50 states, but 50 strategies. And I think that the same thing really applies to the state of Indiana. We have 92 counties. They are not the same. And the needs and the needs and for Marion County are not the same as they are for Fountain County or Switzerland County. So I think that one of the things that the next chairman needs to do is to meet with those individual groups, maybe 2 or 3 counties that are similarly situated, and figure out, what do you need? What do you want from the state party? So, like I said, all the needs are different, and we need to figure out what those are and help them. The other thing I think we need is my vision is we have a lot of people that we need to bring back to the Indiana State Party. Labor has been kind of gone for the table for a few years now. They've gone out on their own, they do their own thing. Um, I think that I'm in a unique position with that. I was on every labor committee, every labor bill, every labor issue for 16 years in the Senate. I know those people. I know all those guys. We fought the right to work wars together, when Mitch Daniels was still the governor. We fought collective bargaining with AFSCME, with the teachers. And I was there for all of that. And I think those people know me and trust me, and I think I can help bring them back. In fact, I've had a couple labor leaders tell me, "Oh, well, if you're in, we're back." So I felt good about that. I think we can help bring them back to the table, and so that's one of the things I'd like to do.
All right, and Karen, you've been a very vocal supporter of legalizing cannabis in the state of Indiana. Go ahead and talk a little bit about your actions in trying to legalize cannabis in Indiana, and if you plan on making that part of your role as chair in DNC is getting Democrats to focus on that a little bit.
Well, all right, so let me just give you a little bit of history. The first time I brought this up, Mitch Daniels was still the governor. And I went down to his office and had a conversation with him. And I said, I'm going to bring this bill to. And at that time, we were still talking about, you have to parse this decriminalization or medical marijuana or full legalization with distribution. And at that time, what I was really trying to do was to start the conversation because nobody had brought it up, certainly in my lifetime. And Mitch just kind of laughed and said, "Well, the legislature can do whatever it wants." Um, so, and it was funny because I went to the legislature then. I told them what the penalties were. I held up a pack of cigarettes and I said, "This is 1 ounce of tobacco, and for this you can go to jail for 10 years." And some of them were actually shocked about that. They let me have a study committee. We eventually did lower some penalties very quietly. We did that. But then Mike Pence came in, and I went to his office and we talked, and he said, "Well, that's not going to happen." So I knew that for 4 years I would file bills that would never be heard. But you have to keep talking. You have to keep the pressure on. And then when Governor Holcomb came in, he was sort of, "Well, we'll talk about that when the feds take it off Schedule 1. So I spent 10 years, offering those bills, offering varieties of those bills, but keeping it in their heads that Indiana's behind. 5 more states did it. 3 more states did it this year. And now the Republicans are actually talking about it now. I don't know what's going to happen. I do know that it is now part of the Indiana Democratic platform.
Okay.
Yeah. So, there are a lot of things to do, but the Republicans, I think, now believe it's their idea.
Right.
Karen, if you become state chair, obviously money is the mother's milk of politics. How big of an emphasis do you place on fundraising? How big of an emphasis do you place on candidate recruitment? And how much emphasis do you put on, being a fighter out there every day in front of the camera on social media and so forth, making sure that the Democrat message gets out there?
Well, That's a three-part question. You're getting a three-part answer. So first of all, let me talk about administrative things. Yes, fundraising. You can't run without fundraising, and the Democratic Party is built on money that we can raise. I have a few ideas because not only do we need to raise money, but we also need to cut expenses. So right now we're paying a lot of money for downtown cushy office space with parking. We don't need to do that. Our lease comes up in 2006. We need to be out of there in our own space, paying ourselves rent. I have some proposals for a 501c3 type organization that could be a holding company that can take over some of the education functions of the Democratic Party, including voter registration, build subscriptions, you know, ongoing subscriptions, monthly subscriptions, get some donors, find ourselves a building where we are not paying that kind of rent. Then we can take that money that, if we can meet the same fundraising goals, we can take that money and use it for other things. So you guys have this great podcast system. I'd like to start something similar for the Democratic Party as part of that, under that 501c3.
I know someone that can help you out on that.
I bet you do. I bet you do. And it's interesting though, Gary, that there are other groups. I was recently on a Zoom for this that came out of Evansville. Another one that came out of Putnam County. You know, it's not my thing to know how to do all the studio stuff, but there are a lot of people out there doing that, and we need to put all of that together and get our message out.
If you figure out how to do that part of it, let me know, because I'm still struggling.
Well, that's what we're going to try. Now, all right. What was part two? Part two of your question?
The money, my ADHD's kicking in.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we still need to raise money. I do believe that I have, a lot of years worth of contacts. I am willing to go out and knock on those doors and try to, raise money. Mike Schmuel did a pretty good job of expanding that base. I think that we can build on some of what he did. The DNC now is, like I said, committed to bringing finances and other kinds of help to state parties. So there are a lot of things that we can share, compliance, technology issues, that kind of stuff. So recruiting candidates. That's an interesting question. I've been on the SCC for a number of years. How much recruitment is done, it depends on the level of jobs that you're looking at. A lot of times the legislative caucuses recruit their own candidates, the state house and senate. Of course, then there are the state offices, senate, governor, and the rest of the state offices. I do believe that it's part of the state party chair's job to help that along. I don't think it's my job to pick people, but I do think it's my job to help it along, to not have bloodbaths of primaries. We don't need that in this party right now. So I will do whatever I can to help that along. I also think that, national politics is not the only venue where we should play. We need to build this party back up from the local levels, and if that means helping counties run for, for dog catcher, the proverbial dog catcher job, so that 2 years from now, that person, who was in the dog catcher role, can now move up to city council or to the mayor's position or to something else. I think that it's really important for the state party to help the local county parties build their bench. And if we do that by training or by phone calls, by education, whatever, however we can do that. Because some of us are getting old. We
I
want to
hear
be
you.
done. Yeah.
For my last question, we've talked a little bit about Democrat voters and hurting Democrat voters, and there are many different issues. How do you plan as a state chair to get those votes from those Republicans, those Republicans that are definitely now, you see them a lot. They're very upset with the way that their party's going. They're willing to vote for a Democrat. A lot of them struggle with some of the extreme leftist Democrats, and they can't bring themselves to vote for that. How do you pull those voters in?
Ha. My
Because you
sister,
can't just win with Democrats in Indiana.
yeah, my sister called me the other day. They better not be messing with my national parks. She called me. We always go. My sister and I, for years, have gone to visit a national park every summer. Um, Now we're seeing that Yosemite has closed its campgrounds for this season and the unknown future. We've seen Indiana. We just saw a story this morning. Indiana, at the Indiana Dunes National Park. Some of our our employees have just been cut, no longer needed. Thank you very much. Um, Now, do I believe that all those people that I see at the national park every year driving their campers, that they're all voting Democrats? Absolutely not. But they're all going to be pissed. They're all going to be mad when their parks are, and there's an issue, as just one example, where we can pick up people and say, I want to do a bumper sticker that says, "Did you vote to close your national parks?" Because the answer is no. And the Republicans have been ace on with doing this for years, picking up issue voters. And right now, they've given us a treasure trove of issues that are making people mad. The national parks is just one that I happen to be close to. But, my daughter worked at Yellowstone for a decade, and a lot of her friends are just being cut.
You talked about a 92 county strategy.
Yeah.
We live up here in rural Huntington. A lot of, there are more people running for office than just Marion County, South Bend, Lake County, the Bloomington, and those Democrats seem to, have a vacuum on all of the publicity and kind of steer the Democrat Party, at least statewide, as far as perception. How do you run a party where I can run up here in rural Huntington County and get the same support as someone running in a Marion County or a Bloomington or a South Bend?
So, Gary, let me understand your question. When you say get the same support, are you talking about financial?
Not
What
necessarily
do you mean?
financial, but from the caucuses, from the state party. Financial support is always good, but when you run in rural counties like we live in, the issues aren't the same as they are in Indianapolis or South Bend or Bloomington, but yet that's what drives the perception of Democrats in Indiana.
Yeah, no, I get that, and I'll tell you why I get that. I live in Northwest Indiana, and we've got a Chicago television market. So for years, we knew everything that was going on in Chicago, and I didn't know anything about what was going on in Indianapolis. And that that was true for a while. But I think we've got the ability now. People no longer get all their news from network TV. They get their news from other sources. And so I think that we have the technological ability to target areas and get messages out in specific places. So that's what I would see. I would like to see, maybe biweekly podcasts of some issue. Tell us what you think about the national parks. Tell us what you think. We had one recently in Northwest Indiana, uh, and it was the Nippon Steel buyout of U.S. Steel.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be great to have a, a, a a balanced, a 60 minutes. This is the story. These are the pros. These are the cons. It would be interesting to all the people in that area, and then kind of a what do you think? And we could do that with local issues all over the state, um, and and hopefully reach people. But I also would like to see us be the place, the Walter Cronkite place. This is where you go to get the real story, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, and not have a big D plastered over everything that we do. That's how we reach people and how we bring people back.
Well, I've got one more question for you, then we'll let you close. In your press release, and uh, you know, uh, you mention that you are the only elected Democrat running for state chair, or have been elected as a Democrat running for
As a
state chair.
Democrat, that's
Uh,
right.
um, Destiny Wells lost twice. Jennifer McCormick was
Was a Republican when
was a
she
Republic
ran.
elected as a Republican and lost as a Democrat. I don't think you're uh, the guy up here in Fort
Derek.
Wayne, Derek Camp, has been elected to anything. So, how important do you feel that you, having been an elected Democrat and the only one, how important do you think that is in becoming state chair?
I think it gives me a perspective that the others don't have. So I've run in elections, I've won, but I've been in office, and yeah, Jennifer has some of that. She's been in office and knows what it's like to get the shaft from her own party. I've been in office. I know what it means to advocate when their position is totally wrong. And I hearken back to those right to work days when, you know, we felt that the government was screwing labor and from every way, from on
Mm-hmm.
every level, from AFSCME to the teachers to all the unions. Um, but I also know what it means to to work with people on the other side and get things done. I managed to get through a whole rewrite of the workers' comp bill. The last one that went through was mine, and then I did the next one. So you need to know how to work with the other side as well, and I think I know how to do that. So I think I have a perspective that the other guys don't necessarily have.
Well, I might have lied to you because I do have another question.
Oh, okay.
Unlike a general election or a primary election, becoming state chair is the central committee going at getting together and picking voting for the state chair. So you have to be a numbers cruncher. You have to be a numbers counter. Where are your numbers now, less than a month out?
Uh, Hopefully, I have enough votes to win on the first round.
And you feel you may have that?
I may have that.
Okay,
I may have
fine.
that. Yeah, but you have to keep in mind, and I'm always going to keep this in mind. Um, there's a reorganization of county parties, so we're
Right.
going to have county party elections, and then there's going to be a reorg of the district levels. Um, some of those people are going to stay the same. We know that.
Hmm.
Some of those people are going to change just because there's been a revision. People have retired, people have moved away. So I can't count numbers securely yet because I don't yet know who all the voters are,
Right.
right?
Correct.
Um, but but I've got a pretty good handle on things, and I think I'm doing well.
Well, Karen, we want to thank you for your time tonight. Real quick, why don't you take a minute or two and make your case to not only the people that are going to be voting that are listening in, but also the people that influence those people voting, and make your case on why you should be the next Indiana Democratic State Chair.
Well, okay. It's the introduction at the end. Got it. Um, All right. Well, I have been involved in Indiana politics for most of my adult life. I spent 16 years in the Indiana Senate. I was the ranking member on the Appropriations Committee. I was on the State Budget Committee. I know what budgets are supposed to look like. I'm very particular about that. I have the. I was also the elected caucus chair of the Indiana Senate Democrats for 4 years. I was a ranking member on pensions and labor for I think 16 years, um, and I've been involved in all of Indiana's issues. People know who I am. People know my record. I don't have to make promises. I have a record of where I stand on all those issues. And um, I would like to be the chair because I said this to somebody, I'm not quite sure if it's appropriate, but we're in war right now. We need a wartime consigliere. And, I don't quote The Godfather very often, but
You're
that's
always
where we
welcome
are.
to quote The Godfather here.
That's where we are. And we need somebody who can unify the party, not come in with an attitude that we're going to blow things up and throw people out, and we need to bring them together. Um, I think I think that's my personality, and I also think that I can do that. So I'm looking to be the next chair. I'm an attorney. I've been doing these kinds of things for other people and other organizations for years. So I think I have the experience to do the executive administrative parts of this job that also have to be done. So that's me.
Well, Karen, thank you for joining us tonight on the SnydeReport podcast. We look forward to seeing the results, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thanks
good
for
luck.
having me, Pepper. Thanks, Gary. It's
Thank
been a
you.
pleasure.
Have a nice evening.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Are we done?
Yeah, well, we're not, but you just click the leave button and we're good.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've never been on that side, so I don't know where the leave button is.
It's in the right-hand corner. I had to find it earlier.
Well, when I sit here and I listen to Karen talk about what her vision is for the state party, I don't think that the vision is not unsimilar to Jennifer McCormick's, who we spoke with recently. but
Right.
I think they have two different approaches on how they're going to get there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Um, I would like to, I'm a big proponent of legalizing cannabis. I do not partake in cannabis, just to let the Huntington County Sheriff's Department know that. But I don't think people should go to prison for that. And I have a really hard time being part of a state that puts people in prison for hurting themselves, or not even hurting themselves in many cases, just getting caught with too much pot. When in every state surrounding us, it's no big deal. I mean, even in Indianapolis, I went down there for a work meeting once, and it was clearly being smoked in the streets, and it wasn't a big deal because they don't prosecute it down there. But if you go just a few counties up, they're throwing people in jail, they're putting them on probation, then you got to pay all these fees. And so I thought it was refreshing to hear her talk about that, and also I am happy to hear that it is part of the DNC platform now.
Well, when we think about the state chair, they can do a lot in driving an agenda, not necessarily for candidates, but for the party in general. And if you have a state chair that believes that maybe every candidate should be supported equally, or maybe cannabis should be one of the top issues, or help recruiting candidates. That's always a positive. And I don't think that necessarily Karen is that rah-rah cheerleader that you would see out there in a way that maybe Jennifer McCormick would, or maybe on social media like Destiny is. But, she quoted The Godfather, and, I could see her running the state party in maybe that kind of a role.
Yeah, I don't know if I could see her. She seems like a very sweet lady, so I don't know if I could see her being a godfather figure, but or even if that's what the Democrat Party needs. I think they probably need someone who's gonna just bring some unity to the party, and also talk to those moderate voters in Indiana who really can't stand the Republican Party.
Well, and I mean working not necessarily in front of the media, being loud about it, but doing her job in a
Right,
quiet and very effective way.
right.
Because her interview tonight was a stark contrast to Jennifer's yesterday.
Yeah.
So, anything else that caught your attention about this interview, or anything else in the news you want to discuss?
Actually, in the news, there was an article
I knew that was coming.
that I read about some layoffs that are happening that are associated with GM. One of the carrier groups, I can't remember the name of it. Let me see. Jack Cooper LLC. They're one of the carriers for GM, and they completely shut down. 119 employees have been let go, and it's one of several nationally. And I think that is probably one of the first signs, is when you see some of those secondary industries starting to go under. And somebody in the comments in this article that I was reading stated that he works at GM up north, and they have now cut them down to 3 days a week. And so I think with these tariffs, you're going to start seeing that reflected in companies like GM. A lot coming up here pretty soon, and I think that's probably one of the first signs right there.
Well, when you look at the tariffs, that's just going to raise prices. When you have a president that ran on reducing the price of eggs and milk and as he said, groceries, that's huge.
Was he holding up a box of cereal at the time? Is that the video you're talking about? He's
huge.
never bought cereal in his life, but he seemed to know a lot about it there.
And it seems that the only thing he's done since going into office is trying to seek retribution, trying to become a king, a lot of ancillary issues that really don't matter. Uh, in the whole,
Trying to become a king.
in the
He
whole,
literally put up a picture of him as a king on Twitter and from the White House account. And it's just, there's no try about it anymore. The man has declared himself king.
it is, but it's noise. It's noise right now that he goes out and he does all this dramatic news headline stuff. But when you take a look at things, the price of eggs and milk and gas aren't going down. We're sitting at the kitchen table. Those issues are secondary, even not even secondary. They're being ignored now. You still can't buy a home. It's too expensive. Gas is going up. Groceries, inflation going up. And the only thing that he can come up with is it's good to be the king and not Monty Python, I guess. And he's doing it just like the king did in Monty Python, History of the World, Part 2.
Well, I think that one good thing that did happen is that the appeals court threw out his attempt to get rid of birthright citizenship. That will probably go to the Supreme Court, I would imagine. But that's a good thing. The courts are stepping in. Some of them have not, and allowed some things to go through. But I think that our future is probably going to be in the hands of the courts for the next 4 years.
And that is a good thing, because as someone who was born to an immigrant,
yes.
Does that take my birthright citizenship away? Now, granted, I'm probably the wrong color for that.
Right.
But
Well, it's one of the reasons I keep you around now is if I need to get out of this country, you're my ticket out.
because I am a British citizen by descent.
You are. Yep.
And I'm actually in the process of getting my British passport so I can even feel more superior and talk down to everyone.
Yeah, then I can disappoint my family even more by getting a spousal British passport.
Anything else you want to cover before we let people go?
No, I don't think so.
All right. So
there's a lot, but we got to keep it under an hour here.
We want to thank our guest, Karen Tallian, Democrat candidate for Indiana State Chair. And we also want to thank our sponsor, Robin Williams, because he has been...
You said Robin Williams.
I don't know that I can edit that out.
I think you're going to have to.
Let me try that again. I apologize, Robin, if I can't edit that out.
I know what your name is, Robin.
So we want to thank our sponsor, Robin Winston. He would probably take Robin Williams, though.
He probably would.
But we want to thank our sponsor, Robin Winston. He's been a great sponsor, not only for the podcast and helping us get this going, but to get the newsletter going that's over 100,000 strong. So if you look below you when this is in YouTube, there's a link there where you can kind of click and become a subscriber. If you want to become a VIP subscriber, it's just $50 a year. We give you the rest of this year and all of next year for the $50. Plus, we let you give a gift of a VIP subscription. So, again, thanks to Robin Winston. As soon as this goes up, I'm getting a phone call. Gary,
yeah, I don't blame him.
You messed that up. I don't know if I'm doing it right or not. But again, thanks to Robin Winston for sponsoring, and thanks for Karen Tallian for joining us tonight. You're listening to the SnydeReport Podcast with Gary and Pepper.
Bye.